What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris Infinite, and welcome to another installment of overpowered farming here in Nightingale. Earlier this week, we covered how to get infinite wood, and today we'll be going over all the stones and ores in the game, as well as gems too. It's going to be insanely productive to set up this portal farm for yourself, unlocking infinite supplies of some of the hardest resources to gather in the game. But first, we gotta put together a pretty massive build for this. We'll need space for 9 portals, so let's whip together a build I've wanted to try out for a long time here in the game. An industrial style build. As with the last farm, you don't have to put together an entire building for yourself. You can simply just place your portals where you need to, but I like to make a build for my portals to help me remember what they're used for and keep them organized, as well as giving me something fun to do here in the game that's a bit more self-directed. So let's quickly roll through this massive build and then get to the fun stuff: infinite stone, gems, and ore for all of your needs. So there we go, I compressed that down pretty good, but it was a good couple hours of building, and we have just enough left in our build limit to get the floors put in for our portals. But still, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I wound up having to build 2 separate structures and combine them together to make this. And we don't have proper brick walls in the game just yet, so I kinda made my own using Tudor foundations, just stacking them on top of one another to create a pretty unique wall here. But now that we have the build all done, let's place in our portals, then show you folks how to set it all up. So if you want to make a build like this one, or just use portals in a more immersive way in your building, you'll want to place them in blueprint mode first, then work from the ground up. Having roofs or floors above your portal will make them try to reach that level of height. So building in an open space with your floors pre-planned is the most efficient way to build with portals in, say, your main respite or a portal build like this one. Portals are like about 1.25 walls high, so they don't line up with walls or floors perfectly. But with Tudor flooring, you can make them blend into the woodwork, or you can position them so that their clipping isn't as visible. Now let's fill them all in once we're done placing them on each of the floors, with a much easier time than if you just tried to brute force it. Again though, I think this really sends home that factory vibe. Now, it's been a while, but here we are again needing you all to make some new burner portals to run through. With the 9 portals you've got set up now, each one will be a burner portal to an ASTROLABE realm. You'll head into a biome at a specific difficulty, mine all the resources you need or want, then you'll reset the realm to have an infinite supply. We'll make multiples of ASTROLABE, Ascended ASTROLABE, as well as each of the biome cards. Then we'll make multiples of Quarry, Forge, and lastly the Ghost Miner cards, as we'll be using them to boost our resources even further. And then we'll go about setting up our portals. For our initial start here, we'll load up each of the realms we need, that way they're ready to be used immediately. Then, as we go along, we'll just reset each realm on an individual basis as needed. We'll start off making all of our low tier realms as medium difficulty. This way, we're getting the resources that spawn at realm scores of 1 to 50. The higher your difficulty is, though, the more likely you are to get rare materials along the way, which is why we don't go for easy. These are separate, though, from rare spawns, but that's something that we'll talk about more when we go through the resources themselves. Then for our next tier of portals, we'll set them up as extreme ASTROLABE realms. This will get you resources that spawn from 50 to 100. With each realm you set up, unless you have a build in one of these difficulties, you'll want to reset the realm so that you have a fresh slate to work with. If you do have a build in an ASTROLABE realm, you'll sadly want to tear it down and build it somewhere else, as these resources will be worth a heck of a lot more to you in the long run. And lastly, for all the resources that are 100 plus, we'll make Ascended ASTROLABE realms on extreme difficulty. These will be the really good portals for endgame runs, but the early and mid-game resources are important as well. And this is kinda cool. I've never opened a bunch of portals for myself, only ever really seen it in pictures. But it does have a crazy vibe having a bunch of these portals open all at once. Then we'll go about naming them, specifying the difficulty, biome, and whether or not the portal is ascended. Again, just as memory aids for the long run. It could be easy to forget this stuff over hundreds of hours of gameplay potentially. If you're wondering what my portal array is currently, I'll have it included in the description down below. Now, let's start jumping through realms here. This is going to be a time-consuming process for me, as I'll scour each of these biomes 2 times. That way I could document as many resources as possible with footage to help you all, but also to take a couple swings at spawning rare resources and spawns themselves. So that's partly why this video took a bit longer than expected on my end. Travel times really add up here in the game when you're doing a really big quest like this one. Anyway, the woes of the grind aside here, next up we'll head to the Fairy Tower to play our first miner card. With Quarry activated, we'll head off and do our stone mining first. This will increase the drops of all stone types in the game, and then double their yield due to ASTROLABE. This includes crude rocks, sandstone, and then named stone as well. In Nightingale, there is usually a bit of a roll on how many resources you'll get. This isn't always consistent, as Sandstone shows perfectly that there are also fixed drops, but essentially, the bigger the number possible, the more of a roll you'll get on how many resources will drop. That's why named stone is much better than sandstone. You can't boost sandstone with Oberon's bounty, but you can for stones like Gneiss and Schist, meaning these stones will be way more productive for you, like by a long shot. You can increase this with how you set up your tools, and then what we're doing today, using enchantments and cards to boost our resources as well. This video was slightly delayed, but I'll be putting out the Ultimate Gathering Tools setup video tomorrow, so please stay tuned for that. I'll bring this and my last video to an insane level here in the game, hopefully if it all goes accordingly. You can also use Quarry and Oberons to boost coal drop rates as well, which can then be used more freely for both crafting steel and fueling your stations. Then we'll go out to mine our ores, and when we do so, we'll play the Forge card. When looking for ores, you'll want to search the tops and bases of mountains and cliffs, as well as the coastline. In a forest, the coastline will also lead to caves, which is where you'll find certain particular rare spawns in the game. In a low-tier forest, you can gather primarily tin with minor shimmering ore spawns. Tin can be used to make bronze in the late game, a very useful alloy when you want to increase crit. Then shimmering can be used to make trickster cards, which are just a fun way to experience the realms for a change of pace. Using this farming method, you'll quickly become over-encumbered, which is where your follower comes in handy. If you ever wonder why I keep poor Cornholio here stripped down naked like he is, it's purely to have more inventory slots to use for massive hauls like these. Every biome has a major resource, a minor resource, and then what I call rare spawns or cave spawns. In low, the major is tin. Then you'll occasionally find a few shimmering amongst them. And then for rare spawns, you'll find pursuit, magnesium, the aforementioned coal, then amber and sulphur, which we'll get to when we're done with forage here. As well, all forests have a chance of spawning in the pretty rare platinum. I wasn't able to find an example for this video, but it has a mining score of 200. It's not super great as a material, but if you find some, just know you got pretty lucky. Its best spawn conditions are in low-tier forests, and actually the lower the tier, the better. You can often find platinum in abeyance realms, but it's not necessary to get, and again, you'll seemingly always have a chance of it spawning, even if it does get extremely low. If you want the lists of resources per realm, I have them in the description down below. Personally, I keep notes in Google Docs and in notes on my phone. Docs for the more intensive stuff, then stuff like these drops in my phone for when I need to reference. You might want to do the same possibly, just to keep things straight here. You can also get Einaidia, which is what I call a rare material. The difference between rare materials and rare spawns is exactly that: how they spawn. Rare materials will spawn in any level of a certain biome, and usually you're bound to get at least one rare material in a realm. As the difficulty increases, the chances of rare materials does as well. And these resources cannot be boosted by Oberon's bounty, so you need to rely on the realm benefits and the minor cards at play to get the most out of them. Now, to clear up what's left in the realm, we'll play the Ghost card. This will boost the drops of gemstones slightly. The ASTROLABE realm doesn't benefit gems, and there is no realm that does currently. As well, there's no card to directly boost gem rates, so we'll play the Ghost card, which boosts all resources dropped. Ghost can be used to boost rock and ore drops as well, but those are better benefited by the cards specifically for them. A good rule of thumb in Nightingale is that if something's for a specific resource here in the game, at least as of right now, it will be the best option for that resource as well. Ghost comes with its own downside of extremely poor visibility. This can make hunting for caves difficult, so when you find caves while you do your ore run through the world, mark them with the small map markers to easily find your way back to them through the fog. You might want to avoid Ghost altogether because of its kinda crazy fog effect, but I find it kinda beautiful in its own way. It's very Fey-like, possibly one of the most out of all of the minor cards. Now, with the bigger explanation for what cards to use and when done with, we'll just focus on the resources and be able to move more quickly here. In the low-tier desert, we could get ourselves nickel and salt among the other common resources. Then you have a small chance of finding copper as a rare spawn. As well, you can find the most amount of rare resources, though none of them are ores or stones, so they aren't boosted by the realm. But with this, you also see the widest range of rarity between the rare materials. So something like Pandoras Purity or especially Losrewn are way more frequent than, say, Britomarts Locks. Salt is a funny resource though. It looks like maybe a stone or an ore, but it is indeed considered a spice when it drops. So to get the best boost for salt, you'll want to use the Ghost card and Oberon's Bounty. Then for our last low tier realm, in the swamp you can get yourself zinc and iron. Iron is great to stock up on tons of, and if we ever get more industrial style building pieces, you could bet that iron will be an even more useful resource. Then, for stone, in a swamp you can get schist, which is actually a slightly better building material than gneiss, as it currently has no real other use in the game. With these named stones dropping in such a plentiful supply here, things like ceramic and bricks become much more affordable in large quantities, and will save you thousands of essence in the traders. In the swamp, you have the second widest variety of rare materials, and again, like the desert, some are rarer than others to find, which is why these burner realms are great. They get you out and exploring and finding stuff that you wouldn't find if you kept your realm stagnant. Then in our extreme forest, we'll be mining our level 50 plus ores. Stones stay the same between realm scores. As you go up through realm difficulties, things become more common until they're the major resource of the realm. Then their place will be taken by the next resource in line. For the forest, it goes tin, pursuit, then arium. As well, you could find sapphires here too. Deserts have a bit of a funny bug here in 0.3. Their maps take on the appearance of swamp realms currently, so I guess a sea of sand really is the ocean in Nightingale's case. But in the extreme Astrolabe desert, you could find yourself gold, silver, and rubies, on top of the other common spawns. As well, I found Britomarts locks while making this video. It's not a crazy material stats-wise, but it's pretty dang rare. Then lastly, for our extreme Astrolabe realms, in our swamp we'll find cobalt, amethyst, and emerald. Swamp ores are funny in that they don't fully do the same thing as deserts and forests with resources, where tiers gradually show up. In swamps, they seemingly have hard set scores, so we have no access to cobalt until we hit that level 50 realm score, then we have no access to titanium until we hit 100. Then for our Ascended Forest, we'll find Arium as the major resource, with Pursuit being less common. We can also now find Obsidian and Diamond as cave spawns, and other gems will be more frequent too, though those are best farmed below 200. If you want help with gem farming specifically, please check out my elemental ammo crafting video. I cover it all there. Then for the desert. Gold becomes most common, with silver being less common. And I almost forgot to mention sulphur here. This is like salt, where it's neither an ore or a stone, seemingly. So the best card to boost sulphur rates is the ghost card. And finally, for the Ascended Swamp, we now have access to titanium, which actually is a really good metal when it comes to making tools for traversal. It comes in two forms, a gem-like rock and an ore-like rock, but they're all ores, so you'll use forge to boost titanium's drops. It has this great-looking blackened metal, so if you're into the aesthetics of your weapons and tools, it's a really cool material to work with. Either way, folks, again, all the biome resources are down in the description below, as well as timestamps, the whole 9 miles to make this video as accessible and useful to you all. But I want to know, what do you think of these last two overpowered farms? Are we pushing things too far, or are we not pushing things far enough yet? Let me know in the comments down below. But stay tuned for the ultimate gathering tools and a video again coming very soon here, but either way, for now, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.